All right. Hope everybody's doing well. Shalom, family. Okay. Shalom means peace. That's what it means. Okay. We're going to get started. B. Smith's husband did an interview on September 18th. And in that interview, he spoke a lot about B and actually said some very nice things about her. You know, what you would expect a husband to say about his wife. And then it gets to the point where they bring up, his white girlfriend, and he reveals that she left him. She left and just never came back. And if you remember, B. Smith died in February. Girlfriend was gone before summer. she left. So right now he's on his own. So I'm going to go ahead, and we got 161 people. Good. We can get started. I like to make sure we have at least over 100 people before I start doing anything. So I'm going to let you listen to it, and then I'll give my thoughts and comments on how I feel about the whole thing. But yeah, I think he was rotten for what he did. It just don't look right when a husband takes a girlfriend and your wife is still living, no matter what condition she was in. You should have been more focused on taking care of her. But hey, I'll just let you watch and then you can form your opinion. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen with all of you. And then we'll get started. Okay, give me a 1 if you can see my screen. Thank you. Thank you, family. All right. Now, is that? That's not the one I want. Hold on here. Wrong one. See if I can find this. I know which one it is. Yes, here it is. Okay.
Welcome to Successful Philanthropy. I'm Jean Shafroff, your host. This show is all about philanthropy and its leaders. With us today is Dan Gasby. He's a businessman, a philanthropist, and an all-around wonderful person. Dan, thank you so much for being with us. Can you tell us a little bit about your life with B. Smith? B. Smith, a famous woman known as the Martha Stewart of the Black community. She was a lifestyle guru, model, actress, an all-around wonderful woman. And later in life, she developed Alzheimer's at a very young age. What was it like?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I look forward to being here. Having the pleasure of having spent 28 years with Barbara Smith, better known as B. Smith, was one of the most remarkable things that I could possibly imagine 25 years ago, because we were doing so many different things and we were living life with so much fun and joy. I never thought what I ultimately have to experience. She was amazing. We went 18 years and never had an argument. We built businesses, we had restaurants, we had a radio show, we had a television, 2 TV shows. We have licensing businesses that still to this day are very viable. But the woman can only be described as she was lace and she was steel. She was a strong person with a kind heart. She was everything that you would want in a mate. And she was a person that when the times got tough, she stood beside you. She wouldn't run. And I learned how important knowing and having someone in your life who's not weak or who's not afraid.
Yes, and you were partners together. Not only were you lovers, were you marriage partners, but you worked in business together, correct?
Yes.
Not in the beginning, but I think later on.
It evolved as I started to see things that were going on in her business life, and I realized that there were some injustices, and she asked me to get involved, and it took off from there.
And what kind of injustices? Were these racial injustices?
When you're Black in America, you always have this 800-pound, quote-unquote, gorilla of being Black and having to deal with people that don't think you are deserving or don't believe you own it or don't believe you're smart enough. It's a constant situation. But she was strong. And that's the thing, when I look back over my life now, relationships I've had, I appreciate that she wasn't a weak person and she couldn't handle pressure. She could handle anything.
Well, I remember your wife as being someone very beautiful. She was someone who would light up a room like you never see before, and also very stoic and very strong. And you were with her all the time. I remember that also. Mm-hmm. You don't remember this, but we met many, many years ago at a charity event. We were sitting at the same table together, and it was at the Bridgehampton Country Club.
Oh, right.
And I just was so impressed with the two of you, and I was really, truly delighted to have been seated with you. But yes, being a Black and being in America, especially now, there's with all everything coming to the forefront. People are talking about it more freely,
Finally.
And I think it's a good thing, because I think that a lot of people, who are not in your situation don't understand. They don't realize that life is more difficult, or they didn't realize. And so I think to have an open conversation about this for our viewers, I think is a good thing. But before we talk about that, let's go back to your life with B and the two of you. So you were, I don't know how old.
Well, I met her, the beauty of it was, I met her at a Valentine's Day I was having with my, at the time, wife, who ultimately left me. But she was impressed that I bought presents on Valentine's Day and then presented them individually, from flowers before the salad and Chanel No. 5 back in those days, which was a big item before the suit came, and then a pearl necklace. And one of the waitresses told her about what I had done. I had come in at 6 or 5 o'clock, and we were going to have dinner at 7. And so that's how I first met her. And when I first looked at her.
So you were with your first wife.
I was with my first wife.
And you were showering your wife with all these beautiful gifts. Exactly. It was like a little bit of a melody.
It was a total melody. It was a song. I was trying to be the orchestra director and trying to play the symphony of romance.
And what woman doesn't love that?
Oh.
I mean, most women on Valentine's Day, they're just happy to be with somebody. And then, so your wife was with you. And so you met B then, and I guess maybe.
This is the thing that I really want to impress upon you, Jean. I had never met anyone that had a smile that was like a 3-tiered light. The closer she got, the bigger the smile got. And then when she looked at you, it was like it went from 50 to 100 watts to 500, not even 150 to 500. And when she smiled at you, you know what love is, and you know what decency is. And she was so confident. And I think that's the big thing that I remember, is that she was confident, she was kind. She was
a good woman.
She was a great woman. And when she walked in the room, candles would flicker. And that was the thing that made me. And this
you
was,
fell in love. It sounds like.
But I didn't fall in love then. The thing I said to myself was, man, I wish I had somebody in my family just like that. And as things would go on, my wife left me. She got an annulment from her then husband. And I had created a TV show with Natalie Cole that she did this little song called Unforgettable.
We all remember that.
And I had the show and this whole situation, and the show was canceled 2 weeks before that album came out, and it was the biggest of the 80s. But as they say, when one door closes, another opens. I was living on the West Coast, coming back to the East Coast. She had heard about the show. She had heard about what was going on, and I walked into her restaurant, and she basically looked at me and said, you did everything you could, and, you know, it'll be okay. And as time happened, I asked her, would you like to have lunch or go to a movie? And she said yes. And we didn't connect, but I kept coming back and trying to ask for a date. And finally, I went one day, came in, I went to the bathroom. She came back from being downstairs at her office, and she was hugging a guy so good looking, I would have dated him. And I'm not gay or bi. And I just gave up. And then 5 months later, while I was sitting at a little bistro up on the Upper West Side, she jumps out of a white Jeep, and her and her girlfriend, and they were both stunning. Her friend had a double-breasted blazer, had skin-tight jeans and heels, had back then cornrows that were just immaculate. And Barbara had on what always made me smile and turn me on. She had on cat pants with the stirrups, and they were all white. And I had never seen a woman wear not a double-breasted blazer. She had a triple-breasted blazer. So there were buttons on the outside and buttons down the middle, and she had a naval officer's hat. And I asked, could I hang out with them? And they said no. And then I asked for a hug. She gave me a hug, and then she pushed me back. And she says, you know, your life may take a turn for the better if you make a phone call. I made a phone call. We met at a little restaurant that was legendary back in the day called Cafe Cielo on 8th Avenue and 52nd Street. And I fell in love with her. Took her to see my health club up where Le Bernardine is. And I walked her to 52nd Street and 7th Avenue. Kissed her on the cheek. She had on a houndstooth suit with a big white hat with a black brim. It was like below her eyes. And I walked 5 steps away, turned around, and she was staring at me. And we were together ever since then.
And how many years ago was that?
Oh, God, it was 30 years ago.
30 years ago. And you had a very long marriage, and I understand she just passed away in February.
Yes.
But it was a beautiful marriage. And then at the end, when your wife developed Alzheimer's, she was sick for what, 6 or 7 years?
Oh no, she was sick for close to 12 years, but we kept it quiet until, because we didn't know what was going on. We thought maybe she was depressed. We thought maybe she was having a nervous breakdown, because we didn't do what people need to do when they start to see cognitive dissonance, when they start to see things that are not making sense, when people start to repeat themselves, when people start forgetting things, when people suddenly have tremendous mood swings out of nowhere and then settle back down. I didn't know anything about that. And I thought she needed a timeout. I thought she needed to get away. I thought she didn't love me anymore. I mean, all of those things, but it wasn't psychological. It was neurological.
And was it insidious, meaning it grew very slowly, or did this happen like she was here and then it just dropped?
Well, Alzheimer's is interesting in all forms of dementia, which is one of. It can happen in a lot of ways. For us, it was a slow drip type of torture where things would get bad or get strange, and then everything would be fine for a while. And then it's sort of like plateauing down, and then stay this way, then it drop, and then it stay this way. And then finally, toward the end, it was just a glide into oblivion.
And how far into this Alzheimer's did you seek help with doctors? Or was it 2 or 3 years out, or 5 years out, or
closer to 5 years.
So you really
because
knew what was going on.
Yeah, I thought she was maybe burnt out. I thought she maybe was having a nervous breakdown. I thought about a whole host of things, and we were so close. I didn't want to believe that this woman who could do, literally she could do everything. And she made everything look effortless. And she was always kind. And then all of a sudden be like, me talking to me now and go, I don't like this. And then go, where did that come from? And then all of a sudden she go, oh, honey, how are you? And you don't know, we wrote a book called Before I Forget. And I call it the WTF period, because you don't know what to expect. All of a sudden, it's like a clear, sunny day, and then there's hail, and there's lightning, and there's wind, and then all of a sudden, everything's calm again, and it could be like that for weeks. And then and then what happens is those distances between the storm get shorter and shorter in duration. And that's when you start to put 2 and 2 together. Some people don't want to believe it even when they tell them it's that, because they just don't want to face the facts.
Mm-hmm. And so what did you do? Where did you go for help? Did you go to the hospital, or did you, and what did they say to you?
Well, my daughter, our daughter, her stepdaughter, but really her daughter because she raised her, started to notice, and she was removed because she wasn't living with us, and she would come back and she could see it, and I was right on top of the situation. And finally, I called up a buddy named Bobby Friedman, and he was affiliated with Mount Sinai, and I went to see a woman named Jane Martin, and we had cognitive tests taken, and the same kind of test that the president that asked to take, and those little things that you find they can't do, so suddenly say there's something going on that's more than just memory loss. And once we did that, we went and had a beta amyloid test, and we saw that there was plaque in the brain. And that's when she realized, and she was strong. She started reading all about it. And she knew this was going to kill her. She knew it. She knew that you don't get out of Alzheimer's. It's one way. And when we got the test results, we walked from 101st Street to right around 93rd, 92nd Street. And she turned to me and she said, tell the story, Dan. You tell the story. Don't let anybody else tell the story. And she says, there's going to come a time when you're going to need to be with someone, or you're going to be lonely. And you love me. I know you love me, but I don't want you to go 10, 15, 20 years by yourself. And that's how it happened.
And what advice would you give to a family who discovers that a family member now has Alzheimer's?
Well, the biggest thing, the toughest language in the world to learn is not Mandarin or Arabic, it's patience. You have to be a patient person, because you're going to go through a living hell. You're going to deal with things that you couldn't imagine a person could do. And you have to lie. You have to not tell the truth. When they're asking you how you're feeling and you've been up all night and you stubbed your toe, or they broke a glass and you stepped on the glass, or someone for the umpteenth time is telling you how you should do something, and they're not sitting there, which is most of the family members who do the least, but want to tell you what to do because they're feeling guilty. You have to have patience.
Patience and empathy, right?
And you have to make sure that you give the person dignity, and you also maintain your own sanity. Because
it's a tough thing to live
4 out of 10 people predecease the person they're caring for. or they get sick.
4 out of 10?
Yeah, 4 out of 10.
Because they can't handle it.
Yeah. And a lot of people, I was determined not to warehouse her.
And you didn't put her in an assisted living program, and you stayed with her.
I sold our beach house because she was escaping and going to the American Hotel, which she loved, and wandering. And I got to a point where I realized I had to try to build a place that had a gate and was fenced in. And we made it. She lived as good a life as you could for the time she had. That I'm proud of my daughter, and I'm proud of I'm proud of what I did, because I was not gonna warehouse her.
And you were with her all the time, which is extraordinary. Now, you had a relationship with a woman while you were living with your wife, and I understand this woman, Alex Lerner, moved into your.
No, not true. No? See, that's she never lived there. That was an angry woman reading. We had 7 bedrooms. There was a room that she could stay and put stuff, or if she wanted to bring somebody, or she wanted kids or whatever.
And this was in New York, or in?
This was out here.
Out here in Sag Harbor.
But the press, and because of the racial situation,
she's white.
Yeah,
Alex,
she's white.
Yes.
Yeah. The press and certain people had a field day with that. My wife dated white men, Asian men. I dated white, black, whatever. Some people are not comfortable with that, and they took it upon themselves. But Alex Lerner never lived in my house. She was there on weekends, twice a month. And I go into town and I stay at her place on occasion, a day or two or whatever. But it was such a hot topic for a lot of people who.
I remember reading about it.
Deal in salaciousness. Mm-hmm. But no, she never lived in there. She never.
And how did B respond to this?
She was very kind to B when she was there. B is a lovely, even through Alzheimer's, even when she was angry. What was funny, my daughter and I still laugh at it, when she, they have a tendency, some people are really violent and really mean. Mm-hmm. She never cursed. And when she got upset with something, she would make up words because she couldn't figure out how to say curse words. And we would just laugh, and then she'd start laughing. So her spirit and her soul was always.
She was a lady.
You know what?
A good soul and a lady, and
amazing.
God dealt at the end a bad deck of cards.
Yeah.
It was a bad ending, a hard ending for her and for you.
Yeah.
And now, are you and Alex together anymore?
No, she took off, and whatever.
And you're healing from the loss.
Wish her well. Life has a way of whatever you deserve, you'll ultimately get. And that's fine,
And now you've gotten involved. You're on the board of a charity that works with people with Alzheimer's. What's the name of that charity?
I'm on the board of the American Brain Foundation. And one of the things that I realized is that the only way to try to solve this is that the brain is really the game. Most people don't realize that there are about 400 different brain diseases. Most people don't realize that whether it's ALS, or it's epilepsy, or it's Tourette's syndrome, or it's Lewy body disease, which Robin Williams died from, or Parkinson's, it all goes back. It's a neurological disease, and it all starts at the top, above your eyebrows and underneath your hair. It starts in that 2.5 to 3.5 pound mass of white and gray matter. And so I realized if I was going to make a difference, I just didn't want to talk about Alzheimer's. I wanted the heart disease, lung disease, kidney disease, cancer, liver disease, all have done a better job marketing their diseases. Ovarian cancer, but the brain is still far behind, but it's the most important organ of the body. It literally
pretty much everything.
Well, you're only a mammal if you don't have your brain. You're not a human being. Mm-hmm. You can replace, parts of your eyes. You can replace your kneecaps. You can replace heart, but you can't replace the brain. That's where your humanity resides.
Well, we have to learn more about how to care for our brains and then about how it works. And I think science is a long way off from solving these problems, but there are groups like the Rita Hayworth Foundation that are involved in research, and your charity that is involved in research. And then people have to hear from people like you, Dan.
Okay. Now, as you heard, Dan is no longer with his Becky. You know, she walked out on him and she never came back. So I guess she got all she wanted out of that relationship and she bounced. Well, this is how I feel. Number one, when the host was, when she opened up, she said, she was like Martha Stewart. I don't like that comparison because number one, B. Smith predates Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart came after her. And I don't like that what they do is they try to put Martha Stewart on a pedestal, but B. Smith was in that game long before Martha Stewart even was a thought to anybody. So I don't like that comparison. All right. I just don't. Number two, I don't understand where Dan is coming from. Now, you said all these glowing things about your wife, right? But as soon as she got sick, you went looking for something else. But if she was so great, why couldn't you be there exclusively just for her? And once she was gone, then yes, go on with your life. And think about this too. Dan had prostate cancer during his relationship with B. Smith. I don't recall her bouncing and going and running around with all kinds of men. She stuck with him, even when he was going through prostate cancer. But when she got sick, he just couldn't do the same for her. I think that's pretty messed up. Then what did you get married for? Isn't that what it's all about? When you come to that point in time when you're growing old together and you're just not the same and you need help, he needs help, and you're helping each other the best that you can. Isn't that what it's all about? I just don't understand his logic. But see, that relationship he had during the time when B. Smith was alive with Alec Lerner, it had no chance of making it. Look at how he started into that relationship. It was a relationship started in lust. B. Smith wasn't the same, so he needed somebody to keep his bed warm and lay down with. That's all Alex Lerner was. I don't know. Maybe she realized that after a while. I don't know. But the bottom line, I think what he did to B. Smith, his wife at that time, was dirty. What a way to end your life when you are down and out. He's just running with someone else and not really giving his all to taking care of you. I mean, that just seems, that seems pretty messed up to me. It seems very messed up. I don't know. He didn't talk about his finances, so I don't know if Alex ran off with his money or not. I don't know. He didn't really talk too much about that. The only thing he was willing to say is she pretty much bounced on him. And I don't think he was expecting that. Just watching his mannerisms, I don't think he was expecting that. I think after B. Smith died, he thought she was going to be there. I don't think he was expecting her to bounce out of there just months after B. Smith died. That's just the impression I'm getting. Yeah, I mean, no. I mean, look, he had a wife that was very much alive. She may have had some problems, and yeah, he's right. Alzheimer's is a very difficult thing to deal with. My mother had dementia. and I had to deal with her. It's tough. It is. It's a tough thing to go through. But if you are married and you got some other woman right under your wife's nose and you're kissing and hugging all over him and laying around with him in your house under the same roof with your wife, that's adultery. As long as she's still above ground and breathing, that's adultery. I mean, I know how he's trying to explain it away. Well, she wasn't all there. No, but she was still here. She was still physically here. And you were still legally married. So I don't feel sorry for him that he is now sitting around alone. he definitely got what he deserved. For real. He got what he deserved. Yeah. I mean, dealing with anybody that loses, their memory, it's tough. Yeah, I believe she was living there too. TM10, I believe she was living there because she got so comfortable. There was a video that I watched back when she was still living, and they said they would go out for walks together, and she would slap B's hand and say she's like a child. No, the woman ain't like no child. She's like a grown up. And I remember when they were being interviewed, when he was still with her, he was, even buying into that garbage that B was like a toddler. No, she ain't like no toddler. That's a grown woman. She may not have her memory anymore, but that doesn't make her a toddler. She's still a grown woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure she got a lot of things from him too. But that's what he get. You gave your all to someone that didn't stick by you. You had B stuck with you for 25 years. This woman, she bounced just months after she died. Becky just didn't want to be there. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was just, and he did say people were saying things to him out in public. Yeah, well, that's what you deserve. What an ignorant thing to do. And then you sit here trying to justify that to everybody. Nobody's going to feel you on that. But that's what he thought. He thought that, I guess he thought people were going to understand. No, no, they're not. You know what the weird part is? I bet you she bounced on him, but I bet you if months down the line she came back, I bet you his dumbass would take her back. I bet you he would. I bet you he would without a hesitation. He would take her butt back. I wouldn't doubt it for one moment. Yeah, I really felt for her. She really declined, from what I understand, pretty quickly too. So she had a pretty severe Alzheimer's. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, Dan is still in the mansion they had. So, I mean, he's not that bad off because they did have a couple of homes, but I think he sold all of those homes off while she was living. And I think he just kept the one the mansion that he's in now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, trust me. I mean, even when I was watching that interview, I didn't feel anything for him. I really didn't. I didn't feel sorry for him. I felt nothing. Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, she was a beautiful woman, and I I remember her show. I think I watched it a few times, but I didn't watch it faithfully, but I did watch it a few times back in the day when she was on the air. And she had a really good show. And I believe her show actually won some awards too. And like I said, it was years later before you even saw Martha Stewart. That's why when I hear, people making that comparison, really, Martha Stewart is really the one that hopped on her game. It's the other way around. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he got all kinds of nice things to say about her because she's gone now, you know? Mhm. Yeah, I remember her in magazines. I remember yeah, I remember, he did speak about her being a model before she did model at one point in time. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, she did a lot of things on that show. It wasn't just cooking. She did a lot of arts and crafts and stuff, made things for the house. And so she had a lot of talent. I mean, this woman had a lot of talent. She really did. As far as I'm concerned, when you really think back, she was way ahead of her time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, y'all. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I just wanted you to see the video. And those of you that came in late, just go back and review. Um, it's a pretty lengthy video. And actually, that was not even the whole thing, that was only part of it. Um, but it was enough for you to get the point that Becky, Alex Lerner, she's gone. She's gone completely out of his life now. Mm-hmm. Oh, no problem, y'all. We'll do this again. There's a lot of things going on, especially with Donald Trump. He wants to go out and debate. And Joe Biden just came forward and said he don't want Trump on the stage if he's still got COVID. He doesn't want to even do the debate if Trump shows up and still got COVID. Trump is under this stupid impression that people will be around him even with coronavirus. I don't know what's wrong with this man. He's definitely out of it for real. But y'all, please enjoy the rest of your night wherever you are in the four corners of the earth. May the Most High keep you safe and protected. Peace, family.